Hi. So if you're like me, you know that there is a major AI crisis for humanities courses, where many students are relying on AI text generators like ChatGPT to more or less write their essays. Sometimes almost entire essays, sometimes major chunks of essays, but parts of essays where we want the students to be, exercising and developing critical skills. And instead of exercising or developing those skills, students are using AI text generators. Now that students can upload attachments, right, of essay instructions and upload attachments like PDFs of the readings into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to write an essay following those instructions based on that reading and incorporating quotations from that reading. And they can do things like rewrite this essay in the voice of a smart high school freshman so as to turn down the sophistication of the vocabulary and sentence structure. We're now in this position where certainly for intro level classes, students can submit essays using something like that technique with ChatGPT and write or submit work that we just won't be able to tell, is it student generated, is it AI generated? And the technology is just getting better and better each year, each semester. It's a real problem. I know many instructors have entirely moved away from out of class writing assignments. Some have moved to just exams, like short answer exams. Of course, there's a kind of work involved in crafting an essay slowly over time. It's kind of skills that are exercised and developed in that process that just aren't in an exam. And so some instructors have, tried to incorporate in-class essays written by hand, but there are serious limitations of that. Students write extremely slowly by hand. It's impossible to meaningfully kind of edit, if they're writing an essay by hand and realize they want to adjust something they did in the earlier part. I mean, it's just, you can't do it. And, writing an essay by hand in one class session still doesn't capture what is so valuable about the experience of writing an essay over an extended period of time, right? Where you're thinking about the topic for a while, working on it, stepping away from it, coming back to it to work on it some more, stepping away from it again. This semester, across my 3 courses, I've been using Lockdown Browser for these multi-day in-class writing sessions. Students bring their own laptops to class, or they could be in a computer lab, and they enter Lockdown Browser, which is its own browser application. It goes into full screen and prevents the student from accessing anything else and prevents the student from copying and pasting from outside of Lockdown Browser into it. And I've set up this system in Canvas where students are actually working on an essay across 3 different in-class sessions. And in each session within Lockdown Browser, they have access to all sorts of things, like links to the essay instructions, to a personal quotation bank, to a bunch of different PDFs of readings that will open up in a new tab in the Lockdown Browser. And at the end of the day 1 writing session, they hit submit. I can then make it so that students can read what they wrote in day 1, in between, say, day 1 and day 2. They can read what they wrote, but they can't edit the document. And then in the next in-class writing session, day 2, they have access to all the same links, but they can also access what they wrote on day 1, copy and paste it into the day 2 essay, and pick up right from where they left off. And if there's a day 3, you can just repeat that process. I've really liked the results. that I'm seeing this semester with it. I can tell that students are thinking hard about their essays, and they're having that rich experience we've always wanted them to have of working on something, stepping away from it, coming back to it, working on it some more, stepping away from it, continuously thinking about it. That kind of experience that many of them actually probably weren't having when they were writing their essays outside of class, even before ChatGPT, right? Many students may have just tried to write a full essay in one night around the essay when the essay was due. So anyway, I've really liked this multi-day in-class lockdown browser writing assignment. And in this video, it's kind of a two-part video. I first show what the lockdown browser experience looks like on the student end, specifically for this like multi-day in-class writing assignment that I've created. That's about 20-ish minutes, just showing the different features of that, if that's useful. And then after that, I show in kind of great detail how to actually, within Canvas, build a lockdown browser writing assignment, and more ambitiously, how to build the kind of fancier multi-day version, while also showing how to do things like link to PDFs in the right way. There are all sorts of wrong ways to link to PDFs, where in the lockdown browser quiz, it will prevent the student from being able to access it if they're writing their response on one kind of device, like a Chromebook instead of a Mac. So anyway, I show all those kind of logistics. I hope you find this video helpful. It takes a lot of work to set this stuff up, but I'm very happy with the setup. And I also know that now that I've created these kind of Canvas assignments, I'll be able in future semesters to import a lot of that into the next Canvas course. So anyway, yeah, the video starts with student side, what it looks like from their end to take one of these. Then I go through the detailed how to build this. At the very end of the video, I talk a little bit about various kind of troubleshooting things, like if students are having trouble opening up lockdown browser, what are some steps to take across different devices. Hope this is helpful. Hi. So in this video, I'm going to show you what a lockdown browser assignment looks like on the student end. In a different video, I'll show you how to actually build a lockdown browser writing assignment through Canvas, and I'll also show you how to build this multi-day in-class writing assignment that I've created and used in my classes this semester with lockdown browser, where students for that multi-day assignment have access to all sorts of things like PDFs of the readings and a quotation bank that they've made for themselves. This video just shows you what things look like from the student side, and then again, different video on how to actually build those things. If you're watching this video, you probably already know the serious problems with AI text generators and out-of-class writing assignments, so I'm not here going to try to convince you of the problem. I'm just going to show you what lockdown browser looks like from the student side. And because running lockdown browser prevents me from running any screen recording software, which is a good thing, I'm making this video by filming my computer screen with my iPad. So that's why the video looks the way it does, and it's why you can see the deal that I got on this used monitor in the bottom left. Okay, so let me click on lockdown browser. So if you're unfamiliar with lockdown browser, it's its own application or browser. It's integrated with Canvas. When students open it, it automatically goes into full screen mode, and they can't exit it or access any other programs on their computer. I'm going to log into this really quickly with this student account that I created for myself. I created guest student account and I created a fake Canvas page so I could test all of this. But anyway, Lockdown Browser prevents students from copying and pasting into the browser from outside of it. Lockdown Browser writing assignments can be made to be password protected so that students need the instructor to actually let them into the assignment. It auto-saves as students work, so it minimizes risk of students losing work. It provides a notification to the instructor if a student closes out of Lockdown Browser before submitting their assignment. So anyway, it's great for preventing students from just relying on something like ChatGPT to write major sections of their essay. Okay, so I'm going to show you what my in-class writing assignment looks like. So when a student logs into Lockdown Browser, they're landed on like what it looks like if they go to Canvas on any other browser. So they'll click on, in this example, my course. And the way I've set this up, I've made like what I call the Essay 1 hub, where I gave like links to where to download Lockdown Browser, and I've given a larger set of instructions. We can ignore this for now. I'll kind of talk about all of this as you see various elements of what the actual assignment looks like from the student end. But this is a multi-day writing assignment that I've created, and I'm going to show you what the day 1 looks like. So click on this. Now notice at the moment there are currently multiple tabs open. As soon as I hit Take Quiz, here we go, it's going to ask for a password. The way I've done this semester is either I enter the password or a team of my assistant instructors and I enter the password for each student. For this video, I've just made it simple. There we go, 1, 2, 3. And I hit submit. There we go. And by the way, had I tried to access this quiz from Canvas through a different browser like Chrome or Firefox or whatever, once I entered the password, it would have told me that I need Lockdown Browser to access the assignment, and it would provide me a link to download Lockdown Browser in case I didn't already have it installed. So you need to access the assignment through Lockdown Browser to be able to open it. Okay, so here we are in this Canvas quiz equipped with Lockdown Browser. Notice as soon as I hit take the quiz and I entered the password, it automatically closed all the previously open tabs within Lockdown Browser. So I can't access anything outside Lockdown Browser, and whatever tabs had been open within Lockdown Browser before I hit take the quiz are automatically closed. So what have I made available in this? So first, it's just a question and a text field where they can write their response here. There we go. The simplest version of a Lockdown Browser in-class writing assignment would, you could just have, the instructions say, write your essay here and have a text field and have nothing else. But I want to do something a little bit more ambitious, something that would be closer to replicating the kind of out-of-class writing experience that we've wanted our students to have, for years. So the way this works, on day 1, I write here, begin outlining and writing your essay in the text box. Helpful links provided below. Make sure to hit submit at the bottom at the end of day 1. And on day 2, you'll be able to pick up back from where you left off on day 1, but you'll have to hit submit at the end of day 1 to do that. And do not exit out of Lockdown Browser before you hit submit. By the way, if students try to exit out of Lockdown Browser before hitting submit, they get a little notification that says do not close the browser until the exam is complete. Your instructor will be notified if you exit the exam early, which is true. Instructors get a notification that says, this particular student left at this time. If I were to hit close the browser here, I would actually have to type in a reason for why I closed it without hitting submit. So I'm going to return to the exam so I can show you what I have here. So I have made it so that there are links to all sorts of things. Uh, First, there's a link to the essay instructions. Oh, and I should mention, this actually took quite a bit of troubleshooting to get the links to behave properly. Within Lockdown Browser, different devices, Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, all behave slightly differently with the links. And so there had to be a very specific way to link all these resources in such a way where students wouldn't get bumped out of the quiz, but could open the link. I'll talk about that more in the how to build this assignment video. But as you can see here, I can click on this link and I get to see the essay instructions. These I made available at least a week before students even started writing, but they have this separate tab open where they can revisit the essay instructions. They can click on this, which is a Canvas quiz that I had created previously, where a few days before the first in-class writing day, they could submit up to 300 words of just quotations and nothing else. And I really emphasize there really cannot be anything else there. If they click on this here, I've already gone in and through the student account added quotations, but they can scroll down and they can see the answer that they gave. They can see, oh, okay, these were the quotations that I thought would be important for my essay. And if they want to, they can hit Control-C to copy this, and they can paste it into this text field so they have access to that. I've also linked to all of the readings that were relevant to this assignment. They can open that up, and again, each one opens in a new tab, right? So they can have all of those available to them. They can look back and forth at the reading and then go back to their essay. They can, they can even copy and paste things. I mean, it is a PDF, so, the formatting is going to be a little bit wonky, but, life's not perfect. That's how copying and pasting a PDF works. So they have access to all that stuff. So the kinds of things that we would want them to have access to as they write their essay. Another thing that I've made available to them in this assignment, if we scroll down, I've made an optional outlining template that they can copy and paste into this text field, especially for students who are new to writing philosophy essays. This kind of thing might be really useful, and it might be that on day one, a lot of what they're doing, I've just copied and pasted this into the text field, is, beginning to write answers to this stuff, right? So they could start filling that out. Super interesting question. Okay. Okay, so at the end of day one, students will hit submit. And when they do that, which by the way, all of the stuff is time-stamped, so I can tell that students are just working on it in class and that they're submitting at the end of class. At any rate, this whole thing is password protected, so they can't access it unless I specifically let them in with the password. But once they hit submit, I'm going to do that here. Okay, so now it's been submitted. Now as the instructor, I can give a grade to that, just an arbitrary grade to make sure that they can read it. Let me do that really quickly. And that's going to make it so that students can read what they wrote in day one. They can't edit it, right? It's already submitted. It's impossible for them to edit it further. But students can read it over, they can continue thinking about things, and they can come back to class for the next in-class writing day, having thought about, having continued to think about their essays. So just to show you what that looks like, here I'm in Chrome. I'm switching between lots of browsers. So within Chrome, I'm here in the student account, and I'm going to click on the essay 1. There we go. So here's my answer. I mean, I didn't really give an answer. I just wrote a super interesting question in the outline, right? But I can read over all of this and continue thinking about it at home, but I can't edit it, right? And so then let's suppose it's day 2. Okay, let me get out of here. Here. So now on day 2, the student's going to go back into Lockdown Browser. Here we go. I need to log back in. I'll log in with this guest student account again. Okay, so now I'm going to click on day 2. I'm going to hit take the quiz. Great, it closes all the tabs once I enter the password, which for this video again is simple, 123. I would make a harder to crack password in the real one. Okay, so on day 2, they have access to all the same kind of links as before, but what they also have access to is they can click here where it says see your day 1 work, and now they can see what they wrote on day 1, and they can copy all of that. There we go. Control C on Windows or Command C in Mac. And they can paste it into here, Control V or Command V. Great, and now they're exactly where they left off. So they can continue writing, they can continue editing everything. One thing to note, because you might have seen that when they click on the day 1 work link here, it takes them to this page, and you might be worried, oh no, can they access all sorts of things on Canvas, right? Because you see all these links here, like maybe they could even go to their inbox and maybe they've sent themselves a message, filled with a ChatGPT essay. So they can't actually. Link is blocked, right? The way that the linking works, or you can set it up this way, is that the student can click on this link from the assignment and it lands them on a page, but once they're on this page, all links in this page are dead. They can't click on any of those. I mean, they can click on that reading, but it won't open up anything other than what's actually posted in here. So great. And so, if there were a day 3, which is what I did for one of my classes, I would just continue this process again. So they have one further day of writing. Yeah, it's great. You can copy and paste within Lockdown Browser, but you can't copy and paste from outside of it. Even if a student right before opening Lockdown Browser had copied a bunch of text, once they go into Lockdown Browser, somehow, magically, Lockdown Browser prevents them from pasting things that had been copied outside of it. So again, really great for, preventing students from just relying on AI text generators to write major sections of their essay. Okay, so that's what my multi-day in-class writing assignment looks like. I have to say, I really love the results. The main kind of pushback that I've heard from instructors and others to in-class writing is that students don't get to think over the topic and refine their writing over an extended period of time. With this assignment, they do. I could tell that students were continuing to think about their essays outside of class, and in some cases, students set out to write an objection to some view on day 1, and then they came back the next class and realized that actually what they now wanted to do is take that objection and defend the original view against that objection. So the assignment structure allowed for, exactly the kind of making up one's mind over time through the process of writing and reflection that we've always wanted students to experience through the essay process. And actually, I suspect that for many students, having the in-class writing be broken up over 3 days actually positioned some students who might otherwise have tried to write the essay all in one night to actually have that experience of thinking hard about a topic, stepping away from it, coming back to it, stepping away from it again, coming back to it again. Moreover, there are a bunch of unexpected kind of nice outcomes of this. The structure of this multi-day assignment gives me access to all sorts of information that I couldn't really easily acquire in the old days. So for instance, I can learn how long are students spending on their essays, right? So some of the students on day 3 are leaving, after 20 minutes, and there was an additional, at least 30 minutes that they could have been, continuing to, spend editing their essays. That's helpful for me to know. I can see what kinds of things are students prioritizing on their day 1 writing day, right? Because I can see, I can go back to the day 1 thing and look at how they were kind of starting the process in a raw, like they're not submitting it as a draft, it's just what they've done so far. And that's helpful to me because maybe I can use that to encourage students to maybe focus on different stuff as they're starting their essay. So anyway, it took a long time to construct this assignment structure, especially to get it to work across all devices. But I'm now very happy with the outcome. And what's great is that I can just, for my future Canvas courses, I can just import this, my previous Canvas course into the new one. So I don't have to build this from scratch every time. So anyway, I hope something in this territory feels implementable in your course. If you want to know how to build this kind of assignment, I have another video for that. Hope this was helpful. Hi. So in an earlier video, I showed what it looks like on the student end to take a lockdown browser writing assignment. In this video, I'm going to show you kind of step-by-step how to build a lockdown browser assignment within Canvas. I'll start kind of simply just showing how to build a lockdown browser assignment at all and how to enable lockdown browser within Canvas. And then I'll build up to how to build the kind of more complex multi-day in-class writing assignment that I built for anybody who's interested in using something like that. As much as possible, I'm going to work with the assumption that the viewer isn't super familiar with how to do various things in Canvas, so I'll try as much as possible to explain each step along the way. Okay, so first step is how to actually enable Lockdown Browser within Canvas. I've built a totally blank Canvas course page, which I've called Totally Blank Canvas Course for the purpose of this video. So to enable Lockdown, on this little sidebar to the left, scroll down to Settings. There we go. And you're going to want to go to Navigation. And then scroll down. These are the things that are currently enabled in the Canvas course. And what we're looking for is Lockdown Browser. There we go. You click this, enable, and now hit save. And great, now Lockdown Browser is enabled in our Canvas course. If we scroll down through here, it now has a little link accompanying it Great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build an ordinary Canvas quiz, and then later we will set Lockdown Browser as a requirement for accessing that Canvas quiz. So let's build a Canvas quiz. Let's click on Quizzes right over here. There we go, Quizzes. And we're going to press this button over here to create a new quiz. Plus, okay. I'd just do classic quizzes. If you don't get prompted with this, don't worry about it. Classic quiz. It does make a difference, so I know how to do this on classic quizzes. Okay, let's just give this sample name, Lockdown Browser Quiz. Great. So we're going to click on questions. What I'm going to do is make a new essay question. So plus new question. There we go. It's currently set to multiple choice. I'm going to change that. We'll make it an essay question. Great. So an essay question now is just going to, have a question that I can write here, and then it will have a text field for the student to write in. I'm going to assign the question some number of points. People do this differently. Some people make the points be a specific number because they want the total number of points across assignments to add up to something specific. I make all quizzes just out of 100, and then I weight the assignments appropriately. Don't worry about that at this stage. Okay, so I'll write in something here, write your essay below. I'm starting with just the simplest version of this. Later I'll talk about adding links to readings. There are actually very specific instructions for how to do that to make sure that the links behave appropriately across devices, Windows, Mac, iOS, Chromebook. But we'll start simply. So I wrote write your essay below, and we now hit update question. That's important. If you just go to save before that, it won't actually update things appropriately. Okay, and now I'm just going to hit save. I'm not hitting publish yet because I first want to enable Lockdown Browser to make that a requirement to access this quiz. And if I hit publish, it will first make the quiz available. I mean, unless I change the date by which students can access it, but I'm not dealing with that. So I hit save first without hitting publish. Now I'm going to go to Lockdown Browser. So scroll down, we find there's Lockdown Browser right here. And right here is the quiz I just saved a moment ago, right? So I click this arrow, and I'm going to go to Settings. And now I'm going to select this option, Require Respondus Lockdown Browser for this exam. There is an option to add a password so that when the student clicks on the quiz, they first have to enter a password to actually start taking the quiz. I'm definitely using this. I've been using it this semester. This helps me make sure that students aren't accessing the quiz before I want them to be accessing it, or after I want them to be accessing it. And I mentioned this in another video, but either I personally or my assistant instructors and I go around the room and enter the passwords for the students. If you're interested, the reason that I manually enter the password or have a small team manually enter the passwords is because otherwise a student could be in the room, and I just announce the password, and the first thing they do is just message a friend who's outside of the class and say, here's the password, sign into my Canvas, take this quiz, open up ChatGPT on another device nearby, and put that answer in. So I enter the passwords. I'll make a simple password. We'll just make it a 1, 2, 3. Great. You can press this button to bring up some more advanced settings. selected by default is require lockdown browser to view post-exam feedback and results. I've been deselecting that. In my own case, I don't have any particular reason why I would want the students to see their feedback only through lockdown browser. That seems like a hassle for them. So I deselect that and I don't select anything else. I haven't personally used this feature, but I could see this being useful for some people. You can select this option and allow access to specific external web domains. As it notes here, if an exam contains a link to an external web domain, students can view that page itself, but all links and navigations from that page are blocked. This setting changes that behavior by allowing a student to access any page or link within the specified domain. Right, so I don't know if you wanted the student to have access to an online French to English dictionary or something. I'm not sure. You could add a domain that they could access things within that domain. I haven't been using that. Okay, so I just require it. I put in a password, and I'm going to hit save and close. Great. So now this one is flagged as requiring lockdown browser. So now that I've made the quiz require lockdown browser and require a password, I'm going to go back to the quiz, clicking quiz right here, and I can go ahead and publish it now, knowing that students can't actually take the quiz until they enter the password. Okay, so like if all you wanted to do was have your students take one class session and write a lockdown browser, essay, right, where they don't have access to other resources, they're just typing in class. You've now seen everything that you need in order to build that simplest version of a lockdown browser in-class writing assignment. If you watched my video where I showed what it looks like on the student end to take one of the multi-day in-class writing assignments that I've provided, you know that there are other things that I make available, like links and access to work that the student has done on a previous day. So I'll now start showing you how to do some of those more complicated things. I'll start by showing you how to link to readings. So let's just go back into this quiz, right? So I'm in quizzes, I'm going to click here. Now I'm going to edit the quiz. I'm going to go back to the questions, and I want to have something more than just write your essay below. I want to link to readings, etc. So I'm taking this question, I'm going to select this pencil. There we go. All right, so I'm going to write C. Katyavava evolutionary debunking of moral realism here. Then I'm going to highlight this part right here, and I'm going to click this button. Looks like a little document. Upload document. There we go. I'm going to drag this file in. There we go. Submit. Great. Now you might wonder, why am I hyperlinking the text here instead of just hyperlinking all of this text? What I've found toying with this quite a bit across different devices, Windows, Mac, iOS, Chromebook, is that the links display slightly differently. Sometimes what you get is just an arrow. It will replace text. So I've found that I want to write out the full resource and then, put here, and maybe that word phrase here gets replaced with something. It will be obvious to the students how to access it, but I'm just telling you that's why I'm doing this. Now, really important, if I just left it like this and hit update question, publish, there would be real problems. So as far as I could tell, if I just left it like this, then certainly within iOS and Mac, the student, even from within Lockdown Browser, once they clicked on that link, it would bump them out of the quiz and into Canvas, where suddenly they could access anything within Canvas, including going to their inbox and opening stuff up, right? Hypothetically, the student could have written out had ChatGPT write out a full essay and then send it to themselves in their inbox, and then copy and paste that within Lockdown Browser and put it into the quiz. Horrible, right? So this is really important. You need to go from this editing page, click on this link, go to Link Options. These options show up on the right. The only thing that I've found to make things work across Windows, Mac, iOS, Chromebook, Linux is Preview Inline. So I selected that option. I tried other options, and either it did the thing where it gave, if a student clicked on it from one kind of device, it suddenly gave them access to all sorts of things we don't want them to have access to, or with other one of these versions, on Chromebooks and Linux, if the student clicked on the link, they wouldn't be able to see the reading. It would just not do anything for them. This is the only option I found that works across all devices currently. It's March 2025. So anyway, this is super important. Anytime you link to a PDF, hit Preview Inline. Otherwise, it's a disaster. Students have access to things you don't want them to have access to, or they don't have access to the things you do want them to have access to. Elsewhere on the internet, you'll see various resources suggest that the way to do this is to link within Canvas into files. I found one, that was a lot more annoying to do, and two, that linking in that way did not work for Chromebooks and Linux. So did a lot of troubleshooting. This is what I found to work across devices. Okay, so if all you wanted was a Lockdown Browser essay quiz where they do it in one class session and they have access to whatever relevant readings, now you have all the information you need to do that. But I've got some other things that I used for my assignments, so I'll go through those. So one of the things that I allowed my students to do is ahead of time, students, so they knew the general essay instructions, and before the class session where they write, while the students know that they'll have access to full unmarked PDFs of the readings, I also told them that they could, in advance, isolate up to 300 words of quotations and just quotations, and upload those via a Canvas quiz. So that's nice because, if the student knows that in their essay they're really responding to like a couple paragraphs of some one of the readings, and maybe a handful of things that show up elsewhere in that article, it's nice if the student can compile those. So let's build a new quiz. Do classic quiz again. There we go. Let's call this quotation bank for essay 1. I'm just going to paste here from the description for one of these quotation bank things that I made for another class. So, right, this is a space for you to write in quotations that you might find helpful for your essay. On the actual in-class writing days, you will have access to unmarked PDFs of all of the assigned readings, in addition to the quotations you provide here. So think about a few key quotations that might be especially crucial given what you want to focus on for your paper. I recommend not going overboard on how many quotations you enter here. Since you'll have access to the readings in their entirety, this is really an opportunity to isolate or highlight a few quotations of particular importance. Okay, we'll click on questions here. And here I'm just going to show you what the quiz looked like in another class. So I made this an essay question. Obviously, different instructors might have different preferences about what they want to allow students to, um, you know, prepare ahead of time before the in-class writing. I went the direction of just allowing them to provide quotations. I said up to 300 words. I didn't want things to be too long because then I worried that some students would bury in a super long list of quotations a ChatGPT essay, and I didn't want to have to navigate that. So I said, okay, up to 300 words of quotations, which is really more that's way more than they should actually be putting in the essay given the kind of length we were talking about, where I was, looking at 750-ish word essays. What I really emphasized is the only thing they can enter in the space are exact quotations from the assigned readings with a page number and the author. And I said they can do things like add bolded emphasis or highlights like these, but it's really just quotation, author, last name, and the page number with markings. And I took extra time to say, like, really, that's all that can be there. No notes to self. I put in a note about, suggesting that they not use ChatGPT to find quotations. I even wrote down that do not ask ChatGPT to hunt down quotations for you, as if you do, you run the enormous risk of writing a fabricated quotation. And I put that could count as a 0 or academic misconduct. And I wrote, sincerely believing that some fabricated quotation was a real quotation will not be seen as a legitimate excuse. And, we're not talking about just misspelling a word, but we're talking about clearly made up quotation. Okay, now something that's important with this kind of thing where students, post things in this kind of quiz and they'll be able to return to it during the actual in-class writing. It's really important to set the date of it so that this thing closes before the actual in-class writing day. If it doesn't close before then when we link to this quotation bank within the lockdown browser essay quiz, then students could have a draft of something in response to this quotation bank quiz, but not have submitted it. And whatever they put in there, I wouldn't yet be able to see it. And they could have a whole long, ChatGPT essay in there. So you want to make a cutoff date for this kind of quotation bank quiz if you decide to include something like this. So you'd click on details and you would scroll down and adjust the due date and the until date. The until date is once it reaches that time, the student will no longer have access to it if they haven't hit submit. So make this, before the in-class writing day. Now, when students submit their response for something like this quotation bank quiz, once they hit submit, their quiz is muted to them. They cannot see their quotations. And you want them to be able to see their quotations during the in-class writing assignment and maybe before it. So what I did is I quickly went through the submissions and I enter some arbitrary grade. I didn't actually grade this quotation assignment. Like if a student didn't do it, that's fine. But I need to enter some sort of number and make it so that it's weighted in such a way that it won't affect the overall grade. So once students have hit submit, right, or once it's past the due date for submitting the quotations, I'll click on quizzes. I'll go to the quotation bank quiz, and I'll just check it out on SpeedGrader. This is just me. I made a student account. And if I scroll down, I see the answers that through the student account I gave for my quotations. It was just this. You wouldn't have to do this. I mean, you don't have to include anything like this quotation bank assignment, but because I did, one quick thing that I did is I just like highlighted like this to see whether the students were bearing tiny white font things that I wouldn't want them to include. I just want them to have quotations and author, last name, and page number. But to make it so that they actually have access to this on the day of the quiz, I need to give a grade to it. So this was out of 1 point, so I'll just hit 1 and enter. Great. But I need to actually post the grade. If I don't post the grade, the students won't be able to see their submission later on. So either by going to your Canvas homepage and then clicking on grades, or by clicking on this thing. If you're within SpeedGrader, great, now you're in grades. You go to the quotation bank thing and hover over here and go to, well, you would go to post grades. In this case, I already posted the grades. I'll give a number to test student just so I can show you this option. Great, so now it's hidden. I'll go to post. And I go to graded rather than to everyone. That way it's just the students that I, approved. I'll hit post, and then those students will now have access to those starting the moment I hit post, and also they'll be able to see but not edit, any of that once they're actually doing the Lockdown browser in-class writing, if I link to that from within the Lockdown browser quiz. If you don't feel like actually, briefly scanning the different submissions that students give for something like this, so let me just erase these scores really quickly. There we go. The fast way to just quickly post things is, for any student who has this thing, so once you're in grades, for any student who has this thing, which means I hit submit on something, you can click on that and, give the number. And for a student who doesn't have anything like that, you can leave it blank, and then you can post the grades. Okay, so if you want them to have access to something like this in their Lockdown browser essay quiz, you would need to link to it. So I'm going back to quizzes, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Lockdown browser quiz that I want to edit. Okay, and I'm going to edit this. By the way, if you were actually using this in a class, I would recommend not like publishing it and then editing it afterward, like build the whole thing, but this is just for this instructional video. So I'm going to click on questions, and we're going to edit this thing again. So, okay, great. Okay, so now I'm going to write, see your quotation bank here, and I'm going to, well, actually, to do this, I'm going to right-click on quizzes and open this in a new tab. I'll click on this, and now I'm going to right-click on this link, quotation bank for Essay 1, and I'm going to copy the link like that. Okay, now I'm going to go back to this tab, and I'm going to highlight this text, see your quotation bank here. I'm going to click on this icon to link things. Doesn't really matter, external link. I'm going to click here, and that link that I copied before, I'm now going to paste it here. Great, and done. So now that's going to link to, like, for an individual student who's on that, when they click on this link, assuming they've hit submit on that earlier and that you posted a grade for that earlier, once they're in the Lockdown browser essay quiz, when they click on this link, it will open a new tab that shows them that quiz and most importantly, their answer to it. And they can copy that set of quotations that they put in there and put it in the text field in their Lockdown browser essay. Okay, so at this stage, if all you wanted was students to work one day, in class, writing something in Lockdown browser, and they have access to readings, and they have access to something like a quotation bank, you're all set. I mean, remember, you got to hit update question, etc. Save. Okay. But what I've done this semester, I really wanted this in-class writing experience to preserve as much as possible the kind of what's valuable about out-of-class writing, where students aren't just like, writing down in one class session what they can think of during that session, but rather, students can have an extended period of time thinking about the topic, writing, stepping away from it, coming back to it. So, if you saw the earlier video or the earlier part of the video where I showed what it looked like on the student end to be taking one of my multi-day in-class writing assignments, then you would have seen that the way I've set this up is there's like a day one quiz where students write, and then they hit submit, and then I I post a fake grade for that day one, and that way, in between day one and day two, students can read what they did on day one, but they can't edit it. And then I set up day two to link back to what they did on day one. So in between the 2 days, they can continue thinking about it. And then on day two, the first thing that they can do is within that new quiz, which has links to all the same stuff, like the readings, quotation bank, it also links to their day one stuff. So they can click on that link to day one, and then they can copy what they did on day one and paste it into the new, day two text field so that they can pick up right from where they left off on day one. So the process to do that is going to look a lot like the process that we went through to make the quotation bank quiz. The main difference is that we're going to link to a quiz that also was Lockdown browser enabled. Okay, so let's make a day two quiz. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click on quizzes and go to a new tab. You'll see why I'm doing this. Okay, we're going to click here, and I'm going to make a new quiz. Again, classic quiz. And we're going to call this one Lockdown browser essay day two. Now let's make the questions. Gonna hit new question here. So remember, this is an essay, so we switch it to essay question. Doesn't really matter the points, put it in 100 again. So I partly want to include all the same links that I provided before. So I'm going to click on this tab, which has our earlier quiz open, and I'm going to hit this pencil. And now I'm going to copy and paste this. So Control C or whatever, Command C. And now this is our new day two quiz. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste that, Control V, Command V. Great, so now we have those same links as before. But the other thing that we now want them to have access to is what they did on day one. So, right, like continue writing your essay below. The first thing you should do is pull up your day one work and copy and paste that into the text field below. By the way, in Lockdown Browser, when the student's actually taking the quiz, depending on what device they use, they may not have the right-click function. And I was surprised to find out that not all students know the shortcuts for copy and paste. So I include those shortcuts here. Right? On Windows, Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. On Mac, Command-C to copy, Command-V to paste. Okay, and I'm going to write, see your day one work here. And now I'm going to hit this link. And I want to link to the day one stuff. So this is why I went into this new tab. I'm going to go here. Let me exit out all of this stuff. This is cancel. This is our day one quiz. I'll just go to quizzes. There. This was our day one equivalent. So I'm going to click this thing, hit copy link. Right, sorry, I right clicked on this. I'm going to hit copy link. Now I'm going back to this. And here, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to paste, Control V. Right, great. Okay, so now that links to that student's specific submission for day one. So I'll hit update question. And remember, so day two is also Lockdown Browser, so I'm not going to hit save and publish. I'm first going to hit save. And then I'm going to scroll down here to Lockdown Browser. And there's Lockdown Browser day 2. Settings. Require respond as Lockdown Browser. Make the access code. There we go. Again, I'll deselect this require Lockdown Browser to view post-exam feedback. I'll hit save and close. And now I'll go back to the day 2 by clicking on quizzes. And I want to publish this now, so I can press this button to publish it. Okay, so now you have a day 1 and a day 2 that links back to day 1. If you're interested, you certainly wouldn't have to do this. Like now the students could access all those quizzes, and assuming they're appropriately titled, the students would know what they're accessing by hitting quizzes. I made like an Essay 1 hub, I called it, which is just like a page that has all sorts of links, like to where to download Lockdown Browser, and just like general instructions about the essay, and then like important links, so that students would just click on that and then they would see where the link is to day 1. And I did that whole thing of like opening up the quiz and copying the link of the specific quiz and pasting it here on this page. You wouldn't have to do that, but you could. One thing that can be easy to forget, so remember that if in the Lockdown Browser essay assignment you are linking back to some other Canvas quiz, whether it's something like the Quotation Bank, or you have this multi-day thing and you have day 2 and you want to link back to day 1, remember that in order for the student to actually be able to read what they submitted in that earlier quiz, when they access that earlier quiz through a link on the quiz that they're currently taking, in order for them to actually be able to read that stuff, you need to have posted a grade on that earlier quiz, right? So I talked about that with the Quotation Bank thing. Same thing applies for day 1 to day 2. If you don't post the grade for day 1, then they won't be able to read their work for day 1 between day 1 and day 2. And on day 2, they won't be able to access that work to copy and paste it into day 2. So definitely important to post those grades. One quick thing, this is a slide that I put up on the screen in the classroom on the day that the students were taking the lockdown browser in-class writing assignment. Part of it is just like showing them where to find the quiz. That might be different on your end if you just have them click on quizzes. But I emphasize some things that help make the lockdown browser work more smoothly across devices. Sometimes the student will have trouble actually getting into lockdown browser, and I've come across a couple reasons why that can be. One thing that I highly recommend is they quit all programs other than lockdown browser. Lockdown browser is pretty good about when there's a program open on the computer and it wants to close it, it will just put up a prompt for the student and says, this thing's running, shall we close it? But it's good to recommend to students that they close all other programs because lots of things take up a lot of memory and battery. Lockdown browser can be kind of finicky with like if students are receiving notifications. So I recommend that they go into a focus or do not disturb mode. So in Mac, if they click this button in the top right, they can enter a focus mode. That seems to help for Mac. In a Windows machine, to go into do not disturb mode, if they click on the date and time in the bottom right of their computer, it opens up something that looks like this. And if they click on this little bell with a sleeping Z on it, it puts their computer temporarily in a notifications off, do not disturb mode. Out of maybe 150 students with whom I did this, 2 had some sort of Windows device running something called Citrix, and lockdown browser didn't like that Citrix was open and it wouldn't automatically close that. If you run into that situation, then for a Windows computer, you hold at the same time Control-Alt-Delete, and you open the Task Manager. And up here in the Task Manager, type in Citrix, and then you would right-click in this list anything that says Citrix, and you would select End Task. It could also have trouble opening on Macs if some sharing or remote features are enabled. If you got a prompt like that and the student's using a Mac, then they can open up their settings, go to General, and all of these sharing options. They'll click Sharing, and then all these sharing options and these remote things need to be disabled. They all need to be deselected. Okay, this is, I think, the last thing I'll mention. So if you Google bypass lockdown browser, as surely some of your students will if you start incorporating a lockdown browser, you will see things like Reddit threads with students asking for advice for how to bypass lockdown browser, and some people on that thread giving possible suggestions. I've looked around some of these things a bit, and I've checked in with IU's IT department a bit. One thing to note is that a lot of the things that are pitched as suggestions for how to bypass lockdown browser, one, are extremely complicated and often are things that are going to put malware on students' computers, or they're things that say like, you can access this, but you have to pay us in crypto. So at this stage, I'm not highly worried about it. And as you can see from this top comment in this Reddit thread, they're like, the student or somebody is asking, does anyone know how to bypass a lockdown browser? The alt-tab virtual machine desktop.exe got patched up. That's to say, lockdown browser is on the case looking into ways that people are trying to bypass it, and they come up with patch updates to prevent that from happening. The results that I'm getting looking at these essays, this is not a concern that I have. Someone in this thread claims that on Mac computers, there's some sort of float browser that you can download to pull up a browser and put it on top of Lockdown Browser. I can't speak to whether that's successful and whether downloading this is the sort of thing that puts a bunch of malware on a Mac computer or not, but I can say that I've like familiarized myself with some of the most popular supposed workarounds. So like this thing says that if you press Command-Shift-O, you can open this. To the extent that you're worried about this, you could take one additional precautionary measure as you're typing in the password for the student in Lockdown Browser and, hit Command-Shift-O. I don't know how serious a worry this is at this stage. And again, Lockdown Browser is patching things up. If this is something that you're really worried about and your institution has computer lab spaces, all institutions, to the extent that they can, should be prioritizing making more computer lab spaces and making it very easy for faculty to reserve computer lab spaces. But if your institution has computer lab spaces, of course, you could run this whole Lockdown Browser multi-day in-class writing assignment in the computer lab. I haven't been doing that this semester, but I am keeping an eye on these sorts of things, and I'm certainly open to the possibility of reserving computer lab space. And in my particular institution, there is definitely the space available for it. Okay, long video, but it kind of takes a while to set this up. One nice thing, I think I mentioned it in the video where I show what it looks like on the student side of things. If you set up this multi-day Canvas in-class writing assignment in a Canvas page, then you can copy that from one course into another course, right? Or the next time you're teaching that same course, you can import that whole Canvas course for your next course. So all of that work, you won't necessarily have to repeat all of those steps. I hope this was helpful.